Ladies and gentlemen, free agency is here, and today I'm going to be ranking the best and the worst contracts in my opinion. Just a couple hours into free agency, almost all the major free agents were already signed. So today we're going to be breaking down the biggest overpayments, the biggest underpayments, and to me the contracts that just were the best value all around. So make sure you watch till the end to see if your team was involved in the bad or the good, and of course subscribe if you're new for more hockey content just like this. A ton coming out this offseason that you won't want to miss. Now in today's video we're going to start out with, in my opinion, one of the best contracts of the bunch, and we're not going to talk about many players that re-signed in today's video, but I needed to talk about this, and it was Sam Reinhart re-signing with Florida. You guys know, one of my bold takes for this offseason was that Sam Reinhart was gonna get paid. I saw more than like $10 million being on the board for him, and I still think that might have happened if he went somewhere else, just considering the Stanley Cup champion moniker, the Stanley Cup winning goal, the 50-plus goals he scored this last year. To me, he would have gotten paid, but it was obvious that Sam Reinhart wanted to stay in Florida, and the Panthers needed him back badly. Of course, once Brandon Montour seemingly hit the open market and was going to test free agency, it seemed like Florida was going to go in a different direction, not really re-signing many of the other D, but actually going after the forwards, and Reinhart, of course, was the biggest one they needed to get done. And they did get it done. At 8.62 for the next 8 seasons, it was right at the midnight deadline to sign an 8-year contract, and they made it happen. Honestly, to me, if Reinhart plays 80% of how he played this last year for the course of this contract, he's easily worth that money, especially with how the cap is raising. I think that's a reason why a lot of players might have seemingly gotten overpaid, but teams are willing to spend more because of that cap raise. And in Florida's case, they needed to bring back Reinhart, and they did. This is a perfect player for Florida to keep, and at that cap hit, it's an easy choice. But now we got to transition on to the worst, and to me, absolutely one of the worst is Sean Monahan to Columbus. This to me was one of the more confusing signings of the bunch. Apparently there was a ton of interest all along with Columbus and Monahan. Monahan wanted to go there, have a reestablished connection with Johnny Gaudreau, which is fine and all, but why did Columbus do this? I get why did like a player like Monahan. I think especially shorter term, he's a pretty interesting player, was great with both Montreal and Winnipeg this last year, but the term to me is a massive problem. You're going to have Fantilli already, of course, as a top center, Boone Jenner, of course, there too, but you're going to have a player like Monahan there for 5 years while you have Kane Lindstrom developing in the wings. You're going to have to tell him that he has to wait 5 seasons to be a center for you. To me, I just feel like that term is a big thing for me. At 5.5, I don't think the AAV is horrible, but it's just that term that really makes me hesitant just a little bit. No doubt, I think over the first couple of years of this contract, he'll be fantastic, but again, there's the issues of health. This last season was a bit of an anomaly for him where he actually was healthy this year, 100%, but you can't really rely on Monahan to be that type of player, and giving that type of player 5 years is just something I wouldn't personally do. But I get it, Columbus wants to be better short-term, and this definitely does make them better short-term. If he is healthy, I'm a huge fan of Sean Monahan, and him with Johnny Gaudreau again is honestly going to be pretty fun to watch. Going back to the best though, I really love this signing by the Edmonton Oilers, and that is Viktor Arvidsson. Now, kind of like Sean Monahan, there might be some injury history there and some question marks about that, but if he is healthy, honestly, that's exact type of winger I wanted Edmonton to go after. Especially at $4 million if he is healthy, to me that is a bargain. You can see what he's been able to do with LA these past few seasons, 59 points, 26 goals in 2023, and then this year when he was healthy, 15 points in 18 games, and it's not like he's been invisible in the playoffs either against Edmonton. In 2023, he got 7.6 assists in 6 games. That's somebody offensively that could really juice you quite a bit, and I think it's a perfect complementary piece and speedy player that can match McDavid and Draisaitl's speed of play. But now we go back to the worst, and unfortunately for LA, we go from a player that they let go to a player they acquired in Joel Edmondson, and this has Marc Bergevin's fingerprints all over it. $3.8 million for the next 4 seasons, and you know what you're getting out of Edmondson. You're getting somebody that can clear the puck in front of the net, but in my opinion, especially in defending the rush and really using any speed whatsoever, Edmondson is just not somebody that can match the pace of NHL speed. He was somebody though that I did enjoy for Toronto. I thought he was a pretty good fit there, and the jury is still out for LA, but I think in one direction it makes them better defensively, but in others I think it straps them a little bit. The term especially is pretty wild to me. It's not horrible, but man, for LA is this looking like another uninspired offseason. offseason. Just LA re-signed Quinton Byfield long-term already. We need to see it happen. Back onto the contracts I like though, and we're back to Canadian teams acquiring wingers. Next up, the Vancouver Canucks got themselves Jake DeBrusk, and honestly, I love this for both sides. The Canucks' #1 job, or at least one of the most important things I thought for them to do this offseason, was to get a true winger for Elias Pettersson, and I think they did that here. In DeBrusk's case, he's somebody that even though there is some inconsistencies, when he is on his game, he can be a monster along the boards. He can be so good with his mobility and his shooting ability, especially in front of the net, and he's somebody that can be just a versatile player. And at $5.5 million, even though it's a long amount of years at 7 years, I feel like that's the reasonable amount for a player of DeBrusk's stature. I think he's probably going to be around 50, 60 points or so, and especially alongside the top end guys, which he never got too much of an opportunity to do with Boston, I think will really benefit both sides involved. Now, the Canucks weren't done actually getting Boston Bruins players, and they actually got Derek Forbort. And here's the thing, in almost every situation, I would say that acquiring Forbort is not an ideal scenario, but he's somebody I've watched a little bit more closely, and sure, is there a big turnover problem there? Absolutely. But this is somebody that, with the deal that he signed, I thought was actually pretty reasonable. With how much defensive defensemen have gotten in this free agency, Forbort signed for 1 year, $1.5 million. And I think for the physical play he has, for some of the defensive play he can bring, I honestly think that's pretty solid for Vancouver, especially as a potential Ian Cole replacement. I thought Vancouver did pretty well with this one too. I know, I'm as surprised as you are that I'm liking a Vancouver Canucks free agency, but here we are. But now we gotta go back to the bad signings here, and I don't even know how the heck this even happened in the first place, but Brady Skjei got 7 years, $7 million with the Nashville Predators. Now, I don't think it's bad for Nashville to go after these defensemen. We've seen in this free agency, Steven Stamkos, Brady Skjei. I mean, they've been so active already, on top of potentially getting Jonathan Marchessault as well. Brady Skjei, though, is kind of the weird one for me. We knew that they were going to kind of reshape that defense, but 7 years at $7 million. I like Skjei. He had a great year this last season, 13 goals, 47 points. He can score a ton of goals recently. But to me, there's not a ton of them that's absolutely special, at least $7 million worth special. I think he will age pretty gracefully because of the more offensive puck-moving style he plays, but still, I think by those last few years, $7 million is going to look pretty rough, even with the cap going as much as it has been. Still, though, Nashville needed to add, and they do. I mean, Stamkos, Skjei, I respect the balls really on Barry Trotz. I mean, he's going out there making some big moves. Finally, I've talked for like the last 2 offseasons how Nashville has all this cap space and so much room, and they could go after so many guys. This year, they're finally doing it, and I love to see that. Now, going back to the good ones, please let me have this. The Dallas Stars signed Matt Duchene to a 1-year, $3 million deal. I'm going to just put this out there that this was the only signing the Dallas Stars made today. The only signing. This one might be even more impressive than when they signed him last year at $3 million. The Stars go out and do it again, and it's honestly surprising to me that he came in this low, considering he was a huge success for the Stars, especially in the regular season, and of course he had his moments in the playoffs too. But 65 points in 80 games, he was a huge part in rejuvenating Mason Marchment, rejuvenating Tyler Seguin, and really getting that second line going. And he was huge throughout a lot of that season for them, providing offense when the Stars needed it. And $3 million. I genuinely don't understand why him and Pavelski have taken such low pay cuts, but I will take it because the rest of the players we signed did not. You first had Matt Dumba at 2 years, 3.75, and sure, he did better in Tampa Bay than I was expecting him to do, but still, for that money and that term, I don't even understand it. Ilya Lyubushkin at 3.2 for 2 years. Why are we doing this? We bought out Ryan Suter just to get even worse Ryan Suters. You got Brendan Smith at $1 million in the big 2024. $1 million for Brendan Smith? Why? Why are we doing this? The Stars had so much potential with this defense to turn it into anything they wanted, and they bought out Ryan Suter just to get more cap space, to not sign Chris Tanev, and to bring in Dumba, Lyubushkin, and Brendan Smith. You brought in like some of my least favorite defensemen in the league just to spite me, right? Is that what it was, Jim Nill? If so, You did a great job. Now going on to some more signings because my mental health didn't need it. Let's go on to another one, kind of like Matt Duchene and Jonathan Drouin, who signed for 1 year, 2.5 with the Colorado Avalanche. And sure, are the Avs in a cap netherworld right now? Absolutely. But I do think this was a tidy piece of business considering Drouin wanted to stay in Colorado. We didn't know that already, but he had a great season with McKinnon, especially once those two really start getting chemistry. They just hit the ground running, and he wasn't even that bad in the playoffs too. 3 assists, 3 points in 3 games as well. Drouin was somebody I think the Avs really needed to keep for that top 6 and just the gel that he was able to have instantly, and he's back for another year, which is great to see. I really don't think there was any team out there that fit him as well as the Avs, and honestly, for both sides, it was good that they came to a conclusion here. But as the pendulum must swing, we must go back to the worst of the worst, and the Bruins had a weird day. But I mean, when you think about them signing Elias Lindholm, it wasn't all that surprising. I mean, that was one of the biggest slam dunks out of this entire offseason. If I predicted it in my free agent video, then you know it's a slam dunk. Lindholm was always going to be a Bruin. The question was going to be, what would that contract look like? And the thing for me, especially like a couple months back, is that with how he played in Vancouver, I really just didn't see him getting a major contract. I saw him having to have a tryout deal, a 1-year deal to actually get some good, substantial AAV. But Lindholm's agent is a god, and he got 7 years, $7.8 million. Jeez Louise, man. Sorry, my apologies, 7.75. But I really didn't see a team giving him that type of contract, especially with how bad of a contract year he had. It was brutal with both Calgary and Vancouver, just not really being able to find a fit in any direction. It was okay in the playoffs, it got better, but still wasn't where it needed to be. But he's just been kind of on a slump ever since Tkachuk and everybody there in Calgary ended up leaving. And I feel like in Boston, it'll be a better situation, especially with Pastrnak. Lindholm is at his best when he has premier players around him, but still, he's somebody that was on the wing as well at points in Vancouver, wasn't necessarily the center they needed him to be, and for the Bruins, they're putting a lot of money, a lot of term into him being the guy when he hasn't proved to be the guy in a couple of years now. But still, we know the Bruins needed to improve in their center situation. I think they do with Lindholm, but man, is this a major risk. Going back to the good contracts here, we go on to the New Jersey Devils, who have a reunion with Stephenson, my in Plano, Texas-born stud, and it's great to see Nason just get this contract in general, $2.75 million for 3 years, and honestly, he's worth every penny. You can see what he's been able to do with Carolina the past couple of seasons, rising from the AHL level and becoming a great depth piece, and in the playoffs, he's been a consistent performer. In big moments, he's come up with big goals. I think he'll do exactly that in New Jersey. As a bottom 6 piece, he is perfect there, back in New Jersey where he needs to. I think getting some depth, especially in the forward group this offseason, was a major focus for New Jersey, and Nason is a huge ass. But going on to maybe the worst, definitely the craziest signing of the day, we got Chandler Stephenson with the Seattle Kraken. Brandon Montour was already a massive signing and still a pretty risky one, but to me, nothing comes close to this Chandler Stephenson deal in terms of wacky out there craziness. $6.25 million is already insane for Stephenson. If it was a 1-year deal. Chandler Stephenson got 7 years from the Seattle Kraken. I don't know what he did, what blackmail he had against Seattle, against Ron Francis, but it worked out pretty well in his favor. An incredible contract for Stephenson. I love seeing him get paid here. He's incredibly fast. He's versatile, especially up the rush, but he has had some weird moments, some major inconsistencies. I just don't think he's that type of guy to be giving that type of money to. I mean, $6+ million is insane to me, especially when you consider even though he's had some good moments and some good seasons point-wise, I feel like he's a little bit inflated in those point totals, and in terms of actual value, again, isn't that type of play driving force you want to be at $6+ million. If this was 5 for 7 years, it would still be, it'd be interesting. I think it would definitely be worth it potentially for some teams, but 6.1 with the term there, especially at 30 years old, that is a massive risk for Seattle, and I don't know, man, especially if they plan on playing him as a center, man. I finally was expecting and hoping that Shane Wright would get an opportunity, but here they come signing another center. Hopefully Stephenson is just on the wing, but we'll have to wait and see here. Now, I also want to shout out a couple of good contracts, and one really under the radar one for me, and it's Taylor Radish with the Washington Capitals, 1 year at $1 million, and the Washington Capitals have had a pretty insane offseason. This is going to be an under the radar ad for them, though. I'm a pretty big fan of Radish and what he can provide. This last year was just kind of a bad year for him in Chicago. Just not a good situation, not where we needed to be, but he's a year removed from 20 goals with the Blackhawks, 37 points, and to me, I still think there's a player there, especially as a third line scorer. That's something something I think the Caps could use more of, more scoring, more goal scoring ability. Radish does bring that, and at the low cap hit at $1 million, that's an easy contract to sign, and especially a great bet for Washington to make. But now going on to one of, if not the best contract of the day, we got Anthony Duclair with the New York Islanders. The Islanders continue to cook this offseason. Great draft, and Duclair to me is one of the better signings of the whole free agency window so far. At $3.5 million for 4 years, you could make a case that the term is a little bit interesting, but to me, that cap hit is perfect. With what he's done in Tampa and just wherever he's gone, he's been this incredible, speedy middle six wing who could just complement the top end guys incredibly well. He did that instantly in Tampa Bay, and I could see him doing that pretty instantly in New York. To me, with the speed, though, that's exactly what the Islanders needed more of. They needed more pace, more skill, more speed, and Duclair brings that in droves. That's exactly the type of move the Islanders needed to make, and with the limited cap space they had, it was pretty much one of the only options they had. But Duclair is a nice add by the Islanders, and I think he'll fit in really well there. But those to me are some of the best and worst contracts of free agency so far. I would love to know your thoughts down below on what you guys agree and disagree with my opinions, and I would love down below with your one best and one worst contract of the day. Who would it be? What team signed it? How bad do you think, or how good do you think they are? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Of course, make sure you share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online, and click on this card for all of my rankings content in one playlist for you to binge watch right there. And I will see you in the next one. I hope you have a great hockey day and Canada Day as well. And I will see you guys later, and see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.